in Congress. Congressman Walkinshaw, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kojo.
I didn't know his district extended all the way to Houston, Texas. That's where you are now, isn't it?
I'm in Houston right now, and I just finished listening to Lorenzo and Ronaldo Salgado Araujo Jr., the two of the sons of the gentleman who was killed recently by ICE. So we're here, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Democrats on the Homeland Security Committee, holding a field hearing around that terrible, terrible incident.
What are you hoping to achieve there?
Well, one, I wanted to look into the eyes of these two young men and experience their pain and their anger, so I can take it back with me to Washington, hopefully communicate it to my colleagues who aren't here. We're also hearing from the district attorney here in Harris County, who is working to try to conduct an investigation into this shooting with little or no cooperation from ICE or the Department of Homeland Security or FBI and local officials. You know, just like I went to Minnesota after Renee Good was killed, I want to see and hear what these communities are experiencing at the hands of ICE.
Okay, more to follow. The White House recently released a report accusing Smithsonian museums of, quote, undermining faith in American institutions. House Republicans followed their lead by holding a hearing this week where they questioned the director of the American History Museum. You were part of that subcommittee hearing. You defended the Smithsonian. What did you take away from that hearing?
Well, look, I think this is part of the Trump administration's really assault on history, and they want us to think that they're against woke or DEI. The reality is they want to just erase parts of our history that don't fit their narrative. I pointed out in the hearing, you know, this is an administration that took Jackie Robinson off of websites, that stopped teaching about the Tuskegee Airmen and the Air Force, that erased the Navajo code talkers from DOD websites, and they want to turn the Smithsonian into another one of their kind of social engineering experiments to rewrite history, and especially write Black people out of American history. That's what they're trying to do.
I watched much of that hearing, and I saw you discussing it, saying that the history should show that slavery alongside liberty and immigration alongside citizenship. But the Republicans seem to just not want to get into the details of what the museum is supposed to be, but they just seem to be, this seems like mid-year election politics, attack things like private parts of people being shown in exhibits and things like that. Having been to these museums, it seems like a mindless thing, but does it playing across the country? Do you get any sense Republicans are getting any traction with this type of attack?
I think you nailed it. I think they're trying to rewind the clock. You know, they feel like they won the 2024 election with this kind of culture war, and they were able to convince the country that, you know, Joe Biden and the Democrats were focused on culture wars and not focused on bringing down costs and inflation. The challenge they have right now is the American people are struggling to make ends meet. Grocery prices are up, gas prices are up, the war rages, which is costing folks a lot of money and lives, by the way. And they're hoping to shift the narrative. I don't think it will succeed. I think right now the American people, even a lot of those who voted for Trump in 2024, are trying to figure out what their government can do to help them make ends meet.
Even Fox News has a new poll out showing that in general across the nation, the Democrats have a lead over the Republicans, something like 55 or something to 47. I can't remember exact numbers. But the midterms, how critical are they to the Democratic Party, given your consistent criticism of what President Trump and the Republicans have been trying to do? There's some suggestion that the progressive wing of the party is fighting with the moderate progressive wing of the party, and that could undermine the Democrats in November. Do you see that danger?
Like I think Democrats in November and next year, when we're in control of the Congress, are going to be united and, you know, putting the brakes on the reckless aspects of this Trump administration, but also focusing on delivering for the American people when it comes to affordability. And there's obviously been a lot of attention around primaries in a handful of very, very blue districts or very, very blue cities, including the District of Columbia. And those are important conversations. But we're going to be in the majority in the House and Senate, I believe, because of mainstream pragmatic Democrats who are running: Elaine Luria in Virginia, Shannon Taylor in Virginia, Tom Perriello in Virginia, and candidates like that all across the country.
As a member of the Oversight Committee, you voted against the House Republicans' bill that takes away D.C.'s ability to change its local tax code. Why do you believe D.C. should have control over its own taxes?
Well, there are 700,000 Americans in the District of Columbia who pay their taxes, and in my view, they should enjoy the full rights of American citizenship, including the right to vote for and elect their own members of Congress, including the right to statehood. In my view, this Republican Congress is obsessed with stripping the residents of the District of Columbia with the rights that they have, including the right to home rule and self-governance. And look, it's almost comical to sit in these hearings and listen to members of Congress debating and discussing whether in the District of Columbia you should be able to make a right turn on red, while we have massive problems across the country, a massive deficit that this Republican Congress has driven up. As I told them in the hearing, if they want to micromanage the District of Columbia, they should run for mayor or city council or even ANC commissioner if they want to really get into the weeds and the details. None of them are willing to do that, of course, because they just want to pontificate. They wouldn't want to actually govern.
Well, some of them want to. The home rule, the limited home rule charter under which the city operates was passed in 1973, first elections in 1974. There are members of Congress, there have been bills introduced even, I know you know, to simply abolish the home rule government and allow the president to appoint a 3-member commission to run the city like it was run for many decades. Is that, I assume the Democrats would stop that next year?
Yeah, look, I would fight that tooth and nail. I don't think that would have any traction with Democrats that have, they could maybe pass something like that in the House, given some of the characters they have. They would face some challenges in the Senate. But I say to my Republican colleagues, have you already solved all of the problems in your own districts in Texas and Kentucky and Iowa? Apparently your constituents there have not a single problem. It's a utopia in those districts so that you can focus on what you think the mayor and the D.C. City Council should be doing. And, this hearing, they spent a lot of time critiquing the district's budget situation.
30 years of balanced budgets doesn't get mentioned much.
I pointed that out. I said, whatever the challenges are this year, D.C. will have a balanced budget. They have to by law. Congress will not. These guys voted for reconciliation number 1 that drove up the debt and deficit $4.7 trillion.
Allow me to interrupt, please, because we're running out of time, and this is a big deal for you. The House recently passed legislation you introduced on fentanyl tracking. It's your first bill to head to the Senate. Tell us about the legislation and how it will impact Fairfax County residents as briefly as possible.
That's right. Thanks, Kojo. Yeah, I had bipartisan bill that passed the House, the Illicit Fentanyl Tracking Act. First, we had in our region, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, nearly 1,000 fentanyl overdose deaths last year. This bill will require the Department of Homeland Security and all of its components, all those different agencies that make up DHS, to finally start coordinating their efforts, measure their progress to prevent fentanyl from getting into our communities, and report back to Congress. Right now, they're all doing their own thing. They're not working together, they're not coordinating, and they're not tracking their efforts. So we don't know whether they're succeeding or not. This bill will require them to do those things.
Will they do it even if you pass the bill? They seem to not.
Yeah, the good news, I have Republican support for this. I introduced it with Mike McCall, a Republican from Texas. So I think if we can get it through the Senate, we'll be able to hold them to account on this one.
And Virginia's electric company Dominion is looking to merge with Florida-based NextEra to create the largest power utility in the country. Lawmakers in both parties are concerned about what this could mean for Virginians' utility costs. What can you do as a member of Congress to protect Virginians from rising utility costs?
Well, the merger is really a state decision, and what I have said is that everyone in Richmond, from the State Corporation Commission to the General Assembly to the governor, should be looking at it through the lens of the impact on ratepayers. And if they can make a credible case that rates will come down or will reduce the increase of rates, then it's worth considering. If not, it should be dead on